Good morning and welcome to my home on this snowy day. It is the first Sunday in Advent, and as you are watching this, wherever you are watching from, I hope that you are safe and warm, and I'm grateful for the technology which allows us to be present with each other, at least in this way. It's the first Sunday in Advent, and our gospel reading for this morning comes from Matthew chapter 24, verses 36 through 44. Jesus said to the disciples, "About that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. For as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and given in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing until the flood came and swept them all away. So too will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then 2 will be in the field, 1 will be taken and 1 will be left. 2 women will be grinding meal together, 1 will be taken and 1 will be left. Keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect." The Gospel of the Lord. The weekend after Thanksgiving, traditionally in my family growing up, was the time when we would start decorating for Christmas. We would start putting festive decorations outside as well as inside. And the shift in the air was palpable. Christmas was on its way. The rosy-cheeked Santa that would get plugged in on the hearth of our fireplace, the stockings that my mother had sewn with unique patterns for all of us were hung, each with their own unique little holder. Mine a adorable, cute little brown bear that held a candy cane, and my stocking would hang from the upside-down candy cane. The little town with a little skating rink on it in which the little skater figurines would skate around as if by magic. My parents had the house feeling cozy and festive, both for Santa and the coming Christ child. Maybe by this first day of Advent, some of you have begun to decorate and prepare your home for the season. Yet, when we gather today for worship remotely, we hear in the words of Pastor Nadia Bowles-Weber, whose book Accidental Saints our book study group recently read, that this is an apocalyptic doozy of a text. There are no angels showing up with amazing messages. There's no sign of Zechariah or Elizabeth, and there certainly is no sign of pregnant Mary. There's no manger in our sight yet. While the world around us seems to be highlighting those things that are cute and cozy and festive, we find ourselves facing this text where cuteness and coziness seem to be very much lacking. Instead, we have a text where grown-up Jesus is talking with his friends about Noah, people being swept away, people doing ordinary things, and even a thief breaking and entering. It's also a text that has been used in relatively recent history to scare people about the Lord's return, teaching people to fear that those who are faithful enough will be whisked away and escape life and this world, leaving others behind in a world of fear and chaos. What a seemingly strange text for this first Sunday in Advent. The season of Advent is not just about the coming of the baby Christ child that happened in the past over 2,000 years ago. It's also about the ways that Christ comes into our midst in the here and the now. And it's also about the future coming of Christ, which our gospel text deals with today. And while our portrayals of the Christ child's coming are often filled with beautiful and tender images, the text we have today might not seem to quite fit with that. In the text from Matthew today, Jesus describes how no one but the Father knows the day nor the hour that the Lord will return, not even the angels or Jesus himself. Jesus describes how life will be going on as normal with people going about their ordinary daily work, daily tasks, when all of a sudden, at an unexpected hour, the Lord will return. Jesus tells his disciples to always be prepared, to always be ready, to wake up. Jesus refers back to the story of Noah and the tumultuous flood. He talks about how people won't know it's coming, yet people may be suddenly separated from each other. And when we look back to the story of Noah, those who have been faithful to the ways of God, Noah and his family, they are the ones that remain. And then also in this text, we hear this rather disturbing image of a thief in the night, a creepy image that we might try to do everything in our power to avoid in real life. Things from security cameras, intimidating dogs, gates and locks, and any other number of security measures. Things that would be deterrents to keep away somebody who would break in. We'll talk more about this image in just a little bit. But these images that Jesus chooses to use are startling. At the start of this season of Advent, Jesus shows up like a thief in the night, breaking and entering, not as the tender baby we come to expect on Christmas Eve. I wonder what might happen if part of our expectation and part of our hope might be that we begin to expect that Jesus will show up in ways that not only surprise us, but also challenge us. When it comes down to it, honestly, Jesus showing up as a thief in the night is a pretty radical image. But when we think about it, really, Jesus, the Son of the living God, being born into the world as a helpless human infant, born into an ordinary family as one of us, that's a pretty radical thing as well. Perhaps we've just become rather numb to how unfathomable that actually is. Jesus says in the gospel reading to keep awake. Perhaps an important part of Advent for us is that we need to be woken up again and again each year to the shocking and scandalous ways that God has actually worked and continues to work in our ordinary lives among us. Some of us are lighter sleepers and some of us are heavier sleepers. Between my spouse and I tend to be the heavier sleeper. I can sleep through most random noises, whereas my spouse cannot. And I tend to be a bit slower to wake up in the mornings in general. It takes me a bit to be ready to function. Meanwhile, Josh, more often than not, wakes up on the more chipper side, ready to take on the day. Perhaps some of you can relate. Have any of you ever had someone in the past or someone even now who perhaps when trying to wake you up starts off with like a gentle, "Hey, are you awake?" And then when you don't respond to their liking, it seems to get progressively louder and louder, and soon it seems like they're yelling at you to get out of bed. Sometimes it may just take an extra bit to get our attention. Sometimes it may take a little extra to help us wake up. It's not necessarily that we don't want to join the waking world. Sometimes it's just awfully hard to escape the land of the sleeping. Advent is a season in the church that doesn't only call us to wake up. It demands that we wake up. It demands that we be alert. It demands that we be watchful for all that is moving and breathing under the surface out of plain sight from the rest of the world. In the midst of all the unknowns in this present world, we know that the birth of something is coming. We know that we worship and follow a God who is all about new life. We may not know what it will look like or what it will entail, but we know and we trust that it is coming. And whether you are a heavy sleeper or not, We all need this time of Advent, this fresh beginning to alert us, to help us be prepared. It's time to be prepared to welcome and receive what God has already done through Christ's birth, death, resurrection, and ascension. And also we need this time of Advent to be woken up, to be prepared to welcome and receive the new and tender life that God is already stirring up and birthing into our midst now. I've shared this before, but I want to share it again now from theologian Shane Claiborne. He writes the following about this time of Advent. Like Mary, we celebrate the coming of the Christ child, what God has already done, and we wait in expectation of the full coming of God's reign on earth and for the return of Christ, what God will yet do. But this waiting is not a passive waiting. It's an active waiting. As any expectant mother knows, this waiting also involves preparation, exercise, nutrition, care, prayer, work. And birth involves pain, blood, tears, joy, release, community. It's called labor for a reason. Likewise, we are in a world pregnant with hope, and we live in the expectation of the coming of God's kingdom on earth. As we wait, we also work, cry, pray, ache. We are the midwives of another world. We need God's help to live like the midwives that Claiborne describes, as God's people that are people of wakefulness and watchfulness, as God's people that are Advent people, as people of hope that walk in the light of the Lord. The early followers of Jesus in the community that the author of Matthew wrote to were very familiar with chaos and uncertainty. They were familiar with finding it difficult to find hope in the midst of ordinary life when so much around them seemed out of control. Yet they knew, as do we, that the Son of Man is to come at an unexpected hour like a thief in the night. We know the Lord will come again and that God's kingdom will be fully revealed. We just don't know when. Jesus said, only God the Father knows that. But as Advent people, we know in this in-between time that we're called to live in this great mystery. Christ's presence is really with us in those places that he's promised to be. We believe through the sacraments, through the waters of baptism, and through the meal of Holy Communion. Yet he's also present with us in other ways, perhaps in sometimes shocking ways, like perhaps even through people around us who might point us to that unfailing hope of God's kingdom fully coming, and sometimes even perhaps through ways that startle us. A number of Christian writers say that maybe there are some things that we need Jesus, our holy intruder, to sweep in and take away. We need Jesus, our holy intruder, to sweep in and take away those things that we won't willingly give up in our own power. What sorts of things do we need Christ to steal away from us like a thief in the night? Could we, the people of God at Memorial Lutheran, live in an even more alert and watchful and hopeful posture should some things be whisked away from us? As we wrap up today, is there something that you need Christ to take away from you? Is there something that gets in your way and keeps you from being truly free to rejoice and walk in hope this season of Advent? To close, I want to share one more quote from Pastor Nadia Bolz-Weber in this book, Accidental Saints. She suggests writing Advent lists, similar to Christmas lists, but rather than something that we would write hoping for something that Santa might bring to us, or something that we might want a loved one to bring to us, an Advent list would be something that we want Jesus to take away from us. She writes, in the hopes that he could pickpocket the stupid junk in our houses, or abscond with our self-loathing or resentment. maybe break in the middle of the night and take off with our compulsive eating or our love of money. That's how God works sometimes. Not through the things we are prepared for, but through the things we don't expect. As you think about what it might be like to have some things taken by Jesus, as you think about what life might be like to be freed from some of those things, may you receive and be filled with God's grace. May each of us be awake and alert to the signs of hope bursting at the seams of this world. And may we, like midwives, help to bear such hope and God's own love into this world. God's peace and the hope of the coming Christ be with you in this season of Advent. Peace be with you.